sorry, Mike. We're gonna say goodbye to Mike. Mike.
Him and his fabulous
Goodbye,
gray
Mike.
t-shirts.
Did my window just zoom in for all y'all?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, great. It all worked out well.
It looks good.
All right.
My enemies will love this photo.
Your enemies are gonna love that zoom.
It was just so funny because she was like, I don't understand why he would have said this to me, but it's bad, right? And I was like, yeah, I think it is.
All
All
right.
right, here we go.
All right.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Hello, Internet.
Sarah, we missed you yesterday. How's Otis?
I missed you all as well. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who checked in on me. Otis is okay. He's snoozing comfortably behind me. He's a little under the weather, but nothing that I think some rest and relaxation won't fix.
I described it as urgent but not life-threatening. Right?
No.
Couldn't wait, but don't worry.
Yeah.
So
I mean, anybody who's, followed my trials and tribulations of Otis, he's got a sensitive tum-tum. So,
things happen.
He's been good for months and months and months. So I sort of forgot.
Yeah. And then things that you can't ignore for an hour and 15 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, we went to the vet and they kind of at this point sort of go like, okay, Sarah, thanks for coming in. I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah.
We'll say,
I mean, better
Yeah.
safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, what else?
So
am I
what'd you
gonna
think
do?
of the old Apple announcement?
Okay. So it was a very weird day for me to not really be following it because, I was as much as I could, but I was preoccupied, obviously. And these are the sorts of things where I'm on Twitter, I'm, watching everybody's hot takes. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it was actually something that I really absorbed after the fact. I just kind of waited for The Verge to write up its review and, everybody else. And going into it, what I really wanted was to have a great reason to buy a $1,100 phone. I don't think I have it.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think
Dodged a
I'm
bullet
gonna
there,
do it.
huh?
No.
What about the $699 phone?
Yeah, well, that's not the phone I want.
No, okay.
Tom. Yeah.
Well, and you upgraded last time around, right?
I did. Yeah.
So you're not dying.
No.
Yeah.
My phone's a year old, but I've got a crack in the screen, and it's the sort of thing where, yes, I could get the new phone and just say, oh, it's for work research purposes, but I don't really need it, and I don't think I'm gonna do it.
I'm tempted for just the base 11, but only really for the camera upgrade because almost everything else is like my 10R, pretty close.
Yeah. Eileen is on an iPhone 8. So she was like, let me see what Apple's got. I might go Samsung. And she was particularly all about the camera. So when I asked her last night, she's like, iPhone Pro. Definitely. She's like, I'm getting that best camera. I'm in for that camera. I'm like, all right, there you go.
That camera is pretty sweet. I do want a Pro. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like the bigger screen, the battery life, all that stuff's cool.
I just also feel like the last camera was also pretty sweet. How much do I use it? I mean, besides just taking snapshots here and there, not that much. How often am I using portrait mode, which is beautiful? Not that much.
Well, but it works on pets now, so you're going to be using it a lot.
It worked on pets before.
I know. I posted a portrait photo of Sawyer like 4 days ago on Instagram. I'm like, it did work on pets, but I guess it works easier.
Yeah.
It was a little finicky with the dogs, and now it'll be a snap, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess I wanted someone to be like, Sarah, you need this phone. And nobody said that to me yesterday.
Did anyone say, well, and we will find out at the end of this week if anyone said, Sarah, you need that watch.
Oh, very true. Very true. Live with it. Polling still going on. And thanks to everybody who has voted and given us feedback so far. I will remain objective as to what I hope you choose for me. Doesn't matter. It's your choice, not mine.
Yeah. And by the way, we've had a lot of folks both on the Patreon and other places saying, well, why can't she have two watches? And the answer is light bulbs are cheaper than watches.
Correct.
We're pulling from your Patreon money to buy these products, and we try to use it wisely. So it's not really in my budget to buy 2 watches. We'd love to be able to do that. Although part of me thinks that even if we had the money for it, having 2 watches isn't the same as multiple bulbs, because you can't wear both. You can use multiple bulbs at once, right?
Right.
You can't really.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could wear 2 watches.
That's sort of the
but
point.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's wearing.
if you're
2
really going to live
watches.
with it, you probably want to focus on just the 1 watch.
Yeah, exactly. We also had a couple folks say, "Hey, you love the segment. Why aren't Tom and Roger also doing this?" And that's
To which you wrote a very thoughtful response by email. I wrote one word: money.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can't afford. But you know what we could do is, when we're buying things anyway, like, I don't know, like my solar panels, right? We could do live with it specials about that. Yeah.
Live with it real life edition.
Yeah. I know, Scott, you were going to do a live with it about your, was it your Chromebook?
No, it was what was it? Oh, that's
You've
bad.
been living with it so well that you don't even think about it.
I don't remember. What was it?
It's just part of your life.
Oh, no. The Oculus Quest is what we were.
Oh, the Quest. That's right. Yeah.
Which we still totally could do, by the way.
Well, and also there's a different mindset between doing live with it and doing what you call it, just using stuff and then reporting on it, right?
Right.
Like I can sit here and say, like, oh, here's the solar installation, here's how it's been going, once it gets turned on, here's how I use it. But Sarah does a lot more than just remember what it was like. Like, you take notes and stuff, you're paying attention. It's a whole different mindset.
Yeah, I mean, again, anybody who uses new technology over a 3-month period, as long as you're taking good notes and remembering, what worked, what didn't, and all that stuff, there's a lot going on. The smart bulb project was, and anybody who listened to our Live With It segment knows, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
In the first week, I was like, this is so great. And then I was like, oh man, what am I doing? And now I've kind of gotten into a comfortable routine, but I also find the whole thing super indispensable, and I can't believe I ever lived without it before. But
that's how wearables got for me. Watch, I didn't think I was going to care, and now I rely on that thing so much. So even if I get rid of the one I have, I feel like I have to do something else, which is why I'm excited. I mean, I'm kind of partial to you ending up with a Fitbit because I just want to know the difference, and whether or not that should be my choice this time, but I'm biased.
I think also the wearable category is great because people have strong opinions about details that I don't care about. For example, the straps are hard to replace. I'm like, when would I ever do that? Like, I don't want to replace straps. It's like having multiple purses. Don't want to do that either. Right. So, but that actually matters to a lot of people. So it's like, does it matter to me? If so, why? If not, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's pretty invaluable, actually, that you even have this. It's like your own little wire cutter corner, where you can kind of recommend things or
totally. Yeah.
Way, and I think that's valuable. It is to me.
I mean, the only thing is that I wish that everything was solid gold. So if I get a Fitbit, it's not going to be solid gold. I'm wearing it on my wrist. But I would say that about any watch in the entire world.
That's true. You say that about any TV show that isn't solid gold, right?
By the way, why hasn't solid gold been
Yeah, where's the dark reboot of Solid Gold?
I thought it did for a hot second. Do I have that?
It was a really good show until MTV came along and kind of destroyed why you.
I feel like Solid Gold faded before MTV came along. Well, actually, you know what, Roger? You might be right. Because I think MTV started in what, 1982?
It started in 82.
Yeah.
And got massively popular by 90.
And remember,
Solid
Marilyn
Gold's
McCoo
demise kind of happens right in that same period.
Because I remember watching Solid Gold when I was in kindergarten, and that was 1981. I don't know.
Just remember
that's a fact I know.
That's
that too. Yeah. And they all wore gold.
Gold lame, gold
just
sequins,
shiny gold. I mean, we all we should all just be wearing gold things.
And the other thing is, a lot of the music was just tied to like Billboard, like the Billboard charts. So if you wanted to listen or see something that was popular but might not have been in the Billboard charts, it wouldn't have showed.
I have to admit, I like that Midnight Green they showed off, even though it sounds like a R&B artist from the 70s. But yeah,
or a Lou Gramm solo effort.
Yeah, kind of. But I think that color's cool.
Yeah, I like it too.
You know what's funny is Eileen was looking at the iPhone Pros last night, and she's like, "Ooh, Midnight Green." No. Like it caught her for a second, like, no. She's like, why can't I have the iPhone 11
is just
colors?
Forest green, right?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I mean, yeah. Midnight green would be black, because in midnight you can't see green.
That's true.
Yeah, good point.
You could have far sight in D&D, but unless you're playing D&D, you don't get to do that. You have to be an animal that has better sight at night. But yeah, like that didn't look too bad. I'm still kind of partial to product red, which I got for my last phone, and I think the yellow looked good on the regular 11s. I like that they're doing colors again, though. I think I really like. I like the color black. That's my favorite. I really like that one.
Yeah, I'm sort of anti-color myself, but
I end up putting a case on it anyway, so.
I just feel like it's like saying, I'm going to wear yellow shoes every day. You're always going to have it on your person. It's going to be kind of part of your whole thing. Why wouldn't you just want something that matches everything rather than clashes with most things?
I would get a color that would not stand out, so it would have a lower chance of being snagged.
You know what matches everything? Gold. You think I'm kidding? Everything should be gold forever.
I don't know. That just reminds me of like the lawyer's office with like the dark wood furniture and that green lamp that accountants used to use. So
no.
With the thick leathery couch.
I understand what you're saying. Not that kind of gold. Cool gold.
What's cool gold?
I don't know. Cool gold.
Is that like fool's gold? Gold? Pyrite.
It's a punchy day on Hump Day, DTNS or GDI.
Post Apple announcement day.
I would like blue with a red racing stripe, or failing that, a white with a black racing stripe, or maybe black with a white racing stripe.
I do like a racing stripe.
A dual color. That's actually interesting. Black and white. Mm-hmm. I would like that.
Yeah, there have been some phones have tried that. It's pretty cool looking. Thing is, you put a case over it though.
Well, you do.
Many people do.
I know. So people who don't have cracked screens do things like that.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna buy you a case, Sarah.
I got
Get off my case. About the case.
Live with it.
I straddled your worlds. I bought a clear case for the first time, so I could still see the red.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's true. You buy a clear case, you still see your color.
It adds tiny bit of thickness, but not too bad. Not too bad.
I have a defense case. I always forget the name of this company, but I love it. Oh, it's the Xdoria defense case.
That you're a lawyer and had told us before.
That's right. I have a defense.
Got a defense case I'm working on. Fantastic.
I'm going to rest my defense now.
That's awesome.
What'd you guys order on Amazon today? That should be a new segment on Good Day Internet.
I didn't order anything. I tried to.
No. Was I supposed to?
I don't know. I feel like people are ordering on Amazon quite a bit. Scott, anything?
Oh, I did. I ordered a packet of what's this? I have these pens I like that just ran out, and they're called Jetstream something from. I can't remember. I don't remember.
I knew there'd be one in the crowd.
Yeah, so that was like $9.
Captain Jack ordered dog food.
Yeah.
It's going to be the stuff that you order frequently, right? Where you're like, oh, yep, I'm out of pens. Need to get some more of them pens.
Yep.
I got a big Chewy order yesterday. Dog food, cat food.
Yeah.
That's, Amazon-ish. Same idea.
Right. I guess that's true. What'd you order online today would be a broader net.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got it delivered. You didn't order it.
Well, I ordered it to be delivered.
But you didn't order it today. Or yesterday.
No. You're right. I ordered it 2 days ago.
Yeah. What arrived is a companion segment.
What arrived today? One of my wife's Zulily boxes, probably.
What's
ordered
Zulily?
She loves that service, whatever it is.
I don't know what it is.
Let's see, Zulily.
You have to look it up. You don't even know.
I really don't.
You just see the box.
It's some kind of you get daily deals. It's clothes and pans and pots and
okay.
Okay.
kind of one of those services. And every once in a while, she'll see 75% off My Pillow, ships free. Okay, here it comes.
I feel like, and I want to try to say this in a way that in no way undermines Kim's love of Zulily, because I don't want to be disparaging of it. But for me, I look at that and I feel like I'm not good enough at this sort of thing, that I'm just not going to waste money and buy things I don't need. So I just avoid them.
No, that's
like,
totally
I'm sure she's savvy and knows how to like work it and get the right deals and everything. But me, I look at that. I'm like, you know how I'm going to save money? Not buy anything.
No, that's 100% me. And she is good at it. And I'll always go, really, we needed that. She goes, look, there were 4. If I got them all together, it costs less than 1, and one's a gift. So we just got a free gift.
Yeah.
She knows this stuff, but I just look at it and go,
what we should be looking at
is the shoe.
No discount on the show today.
No, nope.
Full show.
Full price.
Yeah, full price show. We're not shortchanging.
And it's worth it.
All right, here we go. And 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, you've been saying a PlayStation button wrong. Or have you? Cloudflare admits it was selling services to bad people, and California is close to passing a law to make Uber drivers full employees. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
In beautiful Salt Lake City, I'm Scott Johnson.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Hey, you know what? Special happy birthday to Jason Howell, producer of Buzz Out Loud, Tech News Today, sometimes guest on Daily Tech News Show. It's his birthday today. And
happy birthday, Jason Howell.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jason. We were just talking about buying things online and what we thought of the Apple announcement yesterday and all kinds of good stuff on Good Day Internet. That's the wider show that encapsulates Daily Tech News Show. You can get that by becoming a member at patreon.com/DTNS. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Uber laid off 435 people in engineering and product roles, which is about 8% of those departments. This follows a layoff of 400 people from its marketing department back in July. Uber employs around 27,000 full-time folks. Uber also lifted a hiring freeze that was put into place last month, and the company lost $5 billion in Q2, although a large portion of that loss was related to one-time IPO expenses.
Real quick clarification, that 27,000 doesn't include drivers at all.
That's right. No, good clarification. It does not, at least not yet.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, not yet. Maybe in California soon. All right. Hey, Mozilla is launching its Firefox Private Network VPN service to U.S. desktop users of Firefox as part of the revived Firefox Test Pilot Program. Firefox Private Network is an extension that encrypts a connection to analyze it anonymize it, and to prevent sniffing. Cloudflare provides the proxy servers to Mozilla. The service is free during this beta.
The Libra Association said it plans to apply to become a licensed payments system in Switzerland, where it is headquartered. The Swiss financial market supervisor FINMA said Libra appears to be more than just a global payment system and likely would be subject to liquidity and capital allocations for risk to management of reserves. Remember, there's a basket of currencies that Libra uses as a reserve to back its cryptocurrency that it's developing. Libra told Reuters that FINMA's guidance, quote, now define what the Libra ecosystem is and what it is not.
Bloomberg reports 3 merchants that say several attorneys and at least one economist have been conducting interviews with people who sell goods on Amazon as part of a U.S. FTC investigation. This follows an August 2nd report that John Bumstead of Minnesota was interviewed by FTC lawyers about the impact of Amazon and Apple's deal on his refurbished Mac business.
Yeah, so it's wider than just the Apple stuff. Looks like they're looking at all parts of it, according to these sources. Let's talk a little bit more about some of those under the radar Apple announcements. They sometimes just release some things in press releases like they did with the operating system release dates that we mentioned yesterday. Scott, you've got another one here.
Sure. This is less boring on stage, but interesting to consumers, I think. Apple updated Apple Care Plus with a new monthly subscription offering. Previously, the extended warranty covered 2 or 3 years, which could pay you'd pay that all at once when you'd pick up your hardware or go buy it or get it online. Or you could do it in monthly installments. That's how it always worked then. The change now offers the option to pay monthly until canceled. The user could cancel the subscription under certain terms, or Apple could cancel within 30 days notice if it no longer can service the items or get parts for the thing that's breaking for you. This potentially means Apple Care could last longer than the usual 2 or 3 years. How do we feel about a new subscription in our lives, a service one?
If you're trying to wrap your head around this, say the Apple Watch, you normally get it for Apple Care for 2 years, period.
Right.
You can pay it in installments, you can pay it all at once, but it's 2 years. This seems to imply that it could last longer than 2 years because they're saying you pay monthly until you cancel. Yeah. Although I suppose Apple could just decide there are no longer parts to service it at the end of 2 years. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, sort of 11th hour kind of stuff. It reminds me of my current lease term for my apartment. You know, my landlord has 30 days to be like, you're out of here, Sarah. But at the same time, having just gone through a big MacBook Pro display fix that was $650. It was a lot of money because it was out of warranty and it was something that, was Apple wasn't going to cover for me, even though it's a known issue, but that is beside the point. I did the math and I was like, okay, well, this sort of Apple insurance would have saved me money in the long term had this had been available to me beforehand, which it wasn't. But at the same time, it's kind of like the way I feel about Creative Cloud. I'm paying every month for Premiere and Photoshop. It's going to, over the course of several years, be more money than it would have been to outright just buy the product in the first place, which is how we used to do things. But we've all gotten so used to subscription models.
Yeah, I wonder if there isn't a future where, if you're invested enough across the board, I guess if you're a business, and maybe they already have some of this and I don't know, but paying a monthly fee that just sort of covered all of the stuff branded under that name, whether it's Apple or whoever, Microsoft, whoever wants to do it, that seems like a thing I wouldn't mind as a consumer or a kind of a prosumer of products. That seems like that might be a way to deal. Yeah,
I don't think this works that way though. I think you have to tell it what you're covering, and then the price varies based on that. But yeah, I'm usually one who thinks that these things don't exist to protect you so much as make the company money. So I'm very skeptical. Apple does have one of the better terms where they will actually replace things and fix things. Some of these warranties try to kind of nickel and dime you on that stuff, even when it's covered. But interesting to see that with sort of a no end. I wonder if being in cahoots with Goldman Sachs on the credit card provided them any insight and in the math behind offering this. Google's Chrome 77 is rolling out to Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android this week. One new feature lets you right-click on a link where you can choose to send the link to another device where you use Chrome. So in other words, not just opening the same page as you have open, but like I can send the link from Windows to my Android phone. And when I go open Chrome on my Android phone, it'll be right there. Now, the feature has shown up in Windows, Android, and iOS, though in iOS, you have to have Chrome open to see the prompt to accept the shared link. So it's a little jankier there. And it hasn't showed up on macOS desktop yet, but it will supposedly. Chrome 77 also has a new site loading indicator in the tab that uses the site's fave icon. So it's a little more obvious when a site's still loading.
Before the show, I was like, this sounds like a great feature. Was this not already a feature? And Tom, you clarified, well, for some people, they're like, don't I already have the capability to do this? But no, it's being able to share the link is actually a step forward.
Or Firefox does it. If you were thinking of that, maybe I don't know if they've had that.
I'm a Chrome user across all devices currently. So yeah,
there isn't. Okay, I may be totally wrong here, and I hope I am. So someone will correct me. But it seems like when I've jumped around with different browsers on my phone, including Chrome and Firefox, that the Apple link share stuff still kind of works. So you get that kind of Mac icon that pops up and goes, oh, you've got something happening over here on this other device. Do you want to open it here? And I swear I've done that.
Yeah, that's an Apple thing, though. You can't do that with your Android phone.
I think that's what we're thinking of is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's
the experience I had that
could be.
Makes me think I've done it and that I actually haven't done it.
It's not exactly the same thing, but yeah, that could be what you're thinking of.
Right. Oh,
Scott, I have potentially good news or bad news for you. I'll let
Okay.
you tell me what it is. PlayStation gamers, count yourself among them, who've been calling the console's X button the X button, are in for a surprise because Sony says this is actually called the cross button. In fact, on Twitter, Sony's official account said, quote, if cross is called X, and then they said in parentheses, it's not, then what are you calling circle? And that referred to the fact that a lot of gamers call the O button the circle button.
Yeah, this is a thing that didn't. Some people are downright upset about it. I mean,
Well, so Sony did a poll where they said, "What do you call it?" Wink, wink.
Right.
Well, guess what? You're wrong.
yeah, it's almost like they brought this on themselves, but it's also. I mean,
they did. It's a PR thing.
It is definitely a PR thing, but here's the thing: like, it's so weird to get wrapped up in a pedantic thing that has been in place for 20 plus years. We have been calling it the X button since the day in '96 that I went home with my brand new PlayStation 1 and then returned it a week later because the fan was bad. But anyway, that's not part of the story. We called it an X button then. I've heard Sony in presentations at E3 and other events say the X button as they're describing what's happening in games and so on. So I know they know it. So this is just a way of getting everybody to talk about their PlayStation, I guess. And I don't know that it's the best way to do that. It seems like a lot of negative cloud over this thing.
Does it make you cross?
No, it makes me X'd. I'm all X'd out over it. I feel kind of X'd.
Well, when you think of it, you're like, okay, of course, because of naming conventions of competitors, sure, you'd say, oh yeah, call it a cross rather than X. But as you point out, Scott, Sony itself hasn't done this for many years now, so it's a little silly.
It's super silly, and it's not so much that we're completely adverse to change. If they came out and said it's really important you call it the cross button, and for now all games will just refer to it as that, and you'll see it in all of our documentation. If they were going to do that, all right, fine, we get used to it. But why? You're part of the popular culture in a way that few companies are, and certainly in gaming, that's a thing that sticks forever. We already know it for what it is. It was already weird to use symbols and not A, B, X, and Y like everybody else was doing, and has continued to double down on this weird symbol thing. The only part of it that made sense to us was X and occasionally O instead of circle. So don't take that from us. Let us have this like semblance of like normal conversation about.
We all know.
Yeah,
it's the 10 button.
Yeah, and I'm never going to tell Nick. He's never going to go, Dad, I can't get out of this level. Well, hit the cross button first.
Hit the 10 button.
Well, and also, I mean, I know this is nitpicky, but when I see X, that often means like abort, right? Like it doesn't mean cross to me. Right. So it's like you should have kind of planted the seed about the fact that you wanted us to all call this a long time ago.
Yeah, and other controllers have X. It's all just weird. So I don't know why they did it. Tom's right. It's PR. It's weird PR, though.
Let's talk about something more serious.
I agree. In documents related to its plans to issue public stock, Cloudflare disclosed potential economic and trade sanctions, violations, and such to the U.S. Treasury Department. The filing says the disclosure was made to the Treasury in May. The filing also says that customers that have been designated by the U.S. as terrorists and narcotics traffickers or are affiliated with governments who are currently subject to comprehensive U.S. sanctions used and paid for Cloudflare services. Cloudflare says it's adding additional controls and screening to remediate the problem remediate. Cloudflare also made disclosures over potential export control violations to the Commerce Department and Census Bureau.
So, I mean, really, this is Cloudflare filing its paperwork, not covering things up, saying, hey, we did our due diligence. We looked in the background. It looks like some bad people may have taken advantage of our services, and we're taking measures to try to stop that from happening in the future. But this is no different than what happens on Facebook and YouTube, in my opinion, where you have an automatic system for signing up for something, and it works at a scale that is larger than humans can review. And that is a problem. And, I don't think there's a moral judgment to be laid on Cloudflare here other than to say like, well, if in this world where technology works at that scale, this is something that is going to happen. And yes, we need to figure out how to make it not happen. But it's easier said than done. And it's interesting to me that you don't see a bunch of outrage about Cloudflare out there that you might if this was a Facebook or a Google doing it, because Cloudflare has been very good about protecting your data and being a good steward, or at least appearing to be so in the past.
Yeah, isn't it also good that they benefit from being on the tail end of these other stories? Like we had one last week, Dave, and it feels like every week there's at least 2 or 3 of these.
Because outrage exhaustion.
Partly that, but also they can come in on the back end and go, well, they're not saying this, but despite all of those things, we're doing this the right way, we believe. Here's our due diligence. Here is our transparency. Here's how we're trying to do this. Isn't that better than what you've seen before? Without having
well, I mean, they're not doing press announcements about this. They're not out there saying, look at what we're doing. These are just filings.
Had to file this. Yeah.
Yeah. But even then, like, it's just a better look for them that they weren't the first to get hit with, like, hey, wait a minute, there might be potential terrorists using your common systems.
I mean, that's true of any online service at all. Yeah. Like, that's not specific to Cloudflare.
That's true.
Yeah, I think this is less of a, like, look at what Cloudflare did right, and more of a, this is our new normal.
Yeah, or right or wrong, either one. Yeah. Developer Steve Troughton-Smith, he of the Finding Evidence of Future Products and Developers Things fame, posted a screenshot of a README file from the iOS 13 Goldmaster that describes how employees can run stereo augmented reality apps on an iPhone when you don't have access to Apple's headset. What headset is that? Steve Troughton-Smith asked as he read this README. It refers to something codenamed Garta. Garta has also been reported in leaks by 9to5Mac and Mac Rumors as a codename for an AR headset. Garta seems to be a stereoscopic AR headset based on the content of the README. iOS 13 code also has a game controller framework gamepad profile that Troughton-Smith describes as for a device meant to be used while using stereo augmented reality apps. The controller profile has a clicky trackpad, a trigger button, and a system button, which Troughton-Smith thinks might be a home button. But yeah, it looks like, at least internally, Apple has been testing an augmented reality headset of some sort and a controller to go with it.
And this is something that we've been, hearing rumors about for some time, but this is our best evidence that this is a real thing that is in testing.
Yeah, not only that, but, everybody, we were talking pre-show about how it feels like people are on eggshells sometimes with Apple saying, well, when are you going to show your hand in the VR stuff that we know you're at least researching or working on? That's what they do. They wait for everybody else to put products out, and then they come out and say, well, here's how we think we're doing it right. And they just haven't really done much, even though there've been weird patents floating around and strange drawings and now this. But I think this leads me to believe anyway that what we'll see is a company continue to push AR. They've had a lot of that happening with the phone and with their iOS devices. Why not Apple to be the one that comes out with, at the very least, a AR solution, if not some sort of mixed reality headset, and maybe sooner than we think. Or this could be like any other thing, like Apple Cars, where you just never see anything. So I'm not holding my breath, but I'm excited to hear that there's something. Well,
Sean Hollister over at The Verge suggests that this could be like a cardboard style device, something you put your iPhone in. If you read the README in a certain way, it could work that way, which might be just a test device. He doesn't think, and I agree with him, that Apple would ever release a cardboard style augmented reality device for an iPhone. So we may be a little farther down the road than we think. But if you're like, well, wait, I already knew Apple was making an augmented reality device because I saw all those headlines. Well, there's been a lot of people leaking things and speculating. This is solid evidence. It's reference to the headset in a README file released to public developers. So this is different than somebody said or somebody told me or I think I heard or I saw a leak. Like this is actual evidence. We've sort of lost the ability to distinguish those things over the years. So I feel it's important to point that out. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, back. The California State Senate passed Bill AB 5. That bill, if it becomes law, it's not law yet, would make some contractors into non-contract employees. You'll see people refer to it as full-time, but they could be part-time employees that are assigned benefits. The point is they get benefits. Contractors don't get benefits. If you're a full employee, a non-contract employee, they have to give you a certain amount of benefits. The bill would affect companies like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, even interpreters and translators, possibly some taxi companies who hire people to drive as contractors. Under the proposed law, to be considered a contractor, a worker in California must meet the ABC test. This was laid out in a court case last year and is now being kind of beefed up and turned into law. So the ABC case is you are free from control of the hiring company. The hiring company doesn't tell you how to do your job. They just hire you to do a thing. And
that's if you're a contractor.
Yeah, this is how you qualify as a contractor. 2, you have to work outside the company's main business. If the company is a trucker, which is what the court case was about, and you drive a truck, it's going to be harder to prove that you work outside the company's main business. And the third thing you need to do to prove you're an independent contractor is have an independent business beyond the contracted job. So you can't be like, oh, no, my only source of income is this contracted job. Then the legislation is going to say, well, then you're not a contractor. AB 5 specifically exempts some categories, though. So freelance writers are exempt, real estate agents, lawyers, among others. These non-contract employees in California, if they're found to be not contractors, must be paid a minimum wage, receive overtime, sick leave, family leave, and contribute to Social Security and Medicare. And if they're using their own vehicles, like with Uber and Lyft, then they'd be required to be reimbursed for mileage if they're using their own car for company business. Also, don't forget that companies with employees have to pay payroll tax for employees on top of the money taken out for wages. A lot of people don't realize that. There's the withholding that comes out of your payroll, but then the company has to pay a tax just for employing you on top of that.
Why?
Uber and Lyft, that's called a payroll tax.
But why?
Because the government wants to have more money. So
I'm just, as somebody who's never paid this tax, I'm like, that doesn't sound like something I'd want to do.
No, but I pay this tax because I employ you. So
exactly.
As a privilege of employing Roger and Sarah, I pay the payroll tax.
All right.
Uber and Lyft say they plan to take a referendum to California voters to create a new non-employee classification for drivers next year. That would be their way of fighting back on this. The bill now goes back to the state assembly for kind of a reconciliation. They have to approve some amendments that the Senate put on it. It's expected to pass there, and after that it would go to the governor, who is in full support of this, so he was expected to sign it, and if passed, it'll go into effect on January 1st.
Oh man, so many things to think about with this. And I know it's only California, but I work with so many Californians that I have a lot of questions about how this might affect me. It does sound though, like, for example, if somebody hires me, and I'll speak just because I only know what I could do, but somebody hires me and says, hey, we're doing this children's book. We need an illustrator. We'd like you to do it. Probably going to be okay. Like, that's still under these definitions and these changes, it's still a thing. The writer is pulling in an artist to do a thing, and then the writer's done, and that guy goes away, contract complete, right? What they're trying to kill are people who may want to keep me around to do illustrations for something every month, still calling me a contractor, but depriving me of whatever rights they think they're depriving me of. I think that's how I have it in my head. And people take advantage of it, right? Like, yeah,
I mean, this is definitely targeted at an industry, and that never has unintended side effects, does it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, this whole story, you keep hearing the term gig economy workers. You go like, oh, Uber and Lyft drivers, or, somebody who's working for Postmates, or, somebody who's working for, it's that certain sector of workers, which sometimes it's full-time. It's often not full-time. So companies that are of a large scale, what did we say earlier in the show that Uber has like 27,000 full-time employees, none of which are drivers? Big company. And in many cases, this is the bread and butter of somebody who is working for that company. So that I see that it makes a lot of sense. But, Tom, you used the DTNS team as an example, and there are a lot of small private companies who will be affected by this, and not necessarily in good ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it hard for me or Scott if he's using somebody that lives here in California, like when I co-host Current Geek with him, for instance. It makes it harder to decide, well, wait a minute, do you fall under this law? I mean, you're not a freelance writer, so you're not exempt there. But you for me, it's easy to say like, oh, I have my own business. I had to actually fight this out with a company that had hired me to do something and wanted to make me an employee and take out Medicare and Social Security and all that. And I was like, wait, you're hiring my company. You're not hiring me. And eventually what they did is they're like, oh, you should be a vendor, not a contractor. And they switched it all up, and it's fine. But it is causing a lot of consternation outside of this. And I guess what makes it a tech story is a lot of malicious technology innovation happens because of the freedom to be like, oh yeah, let me just hire somebody to do that for a minute. That doesn't require a lot of paperwork and consternation. And at least in California, this is going to add a few layers to that, or at least put people at risk if they're like, well, as long as nobody complains, I guess it's fine. But what if somebody does complain down the road, right? It just adds a little uncertainty in there.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't have. I mean, here's what usually happens with these kinds of changes and also existing laws. People find loopholes. As you were describing this, I was thinking about, well, let's see, is Tom really a contractor when I do Current Geek payouts? Probably not. Like,
no, I'm a vendor.
You're
hiring Brilliant LLC to provide a guest for your show.
Exactly. See, there's always this stuff. I learned this. If I've learned anything from my magical accountant, and one day it may get him in trouble, I don't know, but he has this way of finding all the ways around. It's like, oh, well, for that, you just say this. For that, you just do this. You show this. It's not like lying or deceit. It's just change.
No, that's the way that you lay it out.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly. So like, if there is somebody like Sarah, for instance, who's like, oh no, I tell her, I don't tell her what to do. No one tells Sarah what to do. But I'm like, you have to be here every day,
but
right?
It just doesn't work.
And I want you to write up some stuff that and you're doing 40 hours a week work, then you're a full-time person. And I get that. And this is trying to make sure the companies aren't abusing this. So I'm not saying I'm even against this law, but it does change the way a lot of other things are going to happen. I know they carved out lawyers and real estate agents because they knew those would be screaming the biggest. Freelance writers too, because the media uses that a lot. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Also, I'm glad that they're not worried about how poorly people who are on their own sole proprietorships treat themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way I'm being fair to myself. I get crappy vacation time. My pay is not that great if you look at hours spent versus what the totals are. Like, I'm a terrible example of mismanagement of my employee if I counted. I'm really glad I don't, and I hope I never do.
Well, I hope you never do either. And yeah, I mean, I guess we didn't talk enough about like the actual what this does for writers, but it could reduce the number of writers that these companies employ. On the other hand, it's definitely going to reduce the exploitation of these writers who have been complaining more and more that the deal gets worse all the time, that the more they work, they're not making that much more money as the fares change. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, freelance writing especially, it's like free from control of the hiring company, working outside the company's main business. Everybody does that. Mm-hmm. Have an independent business beyond the contracted job. Everybody does that, unless things are going badly. So yeah, a lot of gray areas here still.
Well, but freelance writers are exempted, so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Right, but anybody who falls under that same moniker is, I think that there are a lot of companies who will be like, well, are we really controlling you? And the freelance person might say, well, I think you are.
See, that's my point. You start thinking of these loopholes and like, oh, well, if you define it that way, like that's why this stuff's so hard to regulate.
Yeah, it is. What isn't hard to regulate are wonderful subredditors. You can submit stories and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We use those stories to help bolster our show. So thank you in advance. We also have a Facebook group. Join it if you haven't already. Facebook.com/groups/Daily Tech News Show.
Let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. Ted wrote in about using Vivaldi as his main browser for over a year. And Ted says he has some really good thoughts. He says all the features of Chrome, but none of the Google. Most of the web apps that I use are optimized for Chrome. And since Vivaldi uses the Chromium rendering engine, it works just as well. Vivaldi can also use any extension in the Chrome App Store, so you can get all your favorite customizations. You can also sync your personal data outside of the Google Cloud. If you prefer not to have Google holding the keys to your whole digital life, Vivaldi's cloud services are free and privacy-centered. Ted also says web panels are a little expandable windows along the side of the browser, perfect to show in an online to-do list or a notes app or any other site that you want to have handy but also hidden. And then Ted says, cool customizations in the browser interface itself if you wish your tabs or address bar or windows looked and worked a little differently. I really like how the tab bar will match the color of whatever site you visit. I also like the ability to mosaic multiple browser tabs so I can interact with them at the same time. Finally, Ted says, built-in screenshot and nice native developer tools as well.
Now, I mentioned yesterday we had an email from Allison Sheridan that we didn't get to read while Allison was on the show, but she says, I'm sure there are people who just don't like change, so don't want Microsoft to do, but that's not it for her. She's a Wunderlist fan. As Microsoft has been working on to do, Allison writes, I've jumped in and back out to test functionality. Earlier versions were missing a most critical feature, the ability to share a list with someone. The next big thing missing was the ability to organize lists into folders. Now, I tested folders when it came out last month and thought they finally had it ready for prime time, but the painstaking organization I created didn't go across to my other devices. Eventually that worked too, but then things started to disappear from my lists and lists moved back out of folders. I think Microsoft will get there and I'll keep trying to move over, but as of a month ago, it wasn't even reliable. So there may be Wunderlist people like Allison who are like, yeah, I'd move, but it just doesn't work yet. So
yeah. I found myself in the same boat. I don't know if I told you guys this. I moved completely over to OneDrive and away from Dropbox, and I've been thrilled with it. It's been great. Zero problems, lightweight, no weird restrictions, none of the weird newness of all the crazy stuff Dropbox was trying to do. I'm not anti-Dropbox. Good power to everybody, but for whatever reason, I feel like OneDrive stepped in nicely and said, oh, you liked all those simple features. Well, here they are.
Well, thanks to Ted, thanks to Allison Sheridan, and thanks to everybody who contributes to our mailbag. We love your feedback. Keep it coming. Also, thanks to Scott Johnson for being with us today. Scott, let folks know where they can keep up with your work.
Head on over to frogpants.com. There are many shows that you can get. There are also multiple kinds of cool things like artwork and other projects, video projects, things that are going on all the time over at frogpants.com. And as always, if you'd like to talk to me on the regular, you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Scott Johnson.
As I keep mentioning, we are changing our rewards, some of which have been around for 5 years for the first time. And we have a proposal up that we want you to look over and let us know if you can't live with anything in it. We've gotten some great feedback, great ideas. So probably this Friday, we'll address those ideas and incorporate some. And if we don't, kind of explain why we're not doing it at this point. But you can find the current proposal at dailytechnewsshow.com/Patreon.
I mentioned we love mailbag entries, and our email address to send those mailbags to is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 2030 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice, Rob.
I already stopped the recording, darn it.
That's all right.
I wish I had. Someone asked about that. I don't know if it was Patrick or somebody else asked about the good night, Rob. Maybe it was Allison.
Oh, because good morning, Julia. Good night, Rob. What's it all mean?
She was like, why is that in there? Somebody said that.
I can see how you'd be like, who? Is Rob on the show? Who's Rob?
Rob's going to be on the
Am I supposed to
show
say
in a couple
goodnight?
weeks. Yeah, well, you can meet Rob.
Yeah.
You can say goodnight right to Rob's face.
Wait, you've met Rob?
We've all met Rob.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking to the audience right now. When we do the show, often people are listening. So
if you saw good night Rob in the rundown, you might be like, what? Who is this person? Why are we saying good night?
They know him. They just don't remember him by name. Speaking of names.
You know, I actually, now that I think about it, I've never once looked at the Good Morning Julia videos. Have you all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, way back in the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never did.
Yes, it's funny the first few times, and then all the variations on it get kind of old.
But yes, Roger, you were saying names of the show at dtns.showbot.tv. The votes are pouring in.
Pouring like rain.
Like top vote getter right now. Nobody tells Sarah what to do.
I mean, they do all the time. I just ignore them.
Yeah, well, exactly. You have to ask nicely.
Go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, don't tell.
I don't like
Gamers.
authority.
Gamers cross over the
Pretty
X
still
button.
I'm excited. I'm looking at our GDI titles ahead of time, but okay, let's do DTNS first.
Yeah. Gamers crossover X button. Happy birthday, Jason Howell. Hit the 10 button. Thank you, Captain Jack, for getting my OS 10 iPhone 10 joke. Don't hire me.
Hire my company.
Yeah, I've said that. I've lived that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so torn on all that stuff. There's got to be a better way to keep people from taking advantage of those things.
Well, in a way, I don't think the referendum that they'll write will be the right one, but asking for a new category is the right thing.
I agree.
Because I think the previous contractor rules worked just fine for us, but they were being exploited by the ride-hailing companies. And so I think you need a new category that's like, well, wait a minute, you're sort of an independent contractor, but not entirely. So you deserve some benefits, but maybe not all the same benefits that a full-time employee. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that is the right answer.
Time. I mean, they used to do the same thing with interns. Like, they literally made them employees in all but actual tax code. So
yeah, I just want to say, X gonna give it to Sony. Standing O. Thank you. I don't know if that's going to be our show title, but good one. TVZ gone.
Yeah. X gonna give it to me.
Do we want, here's the key question. This is pivotal to choosing today's title. Do we want to try to have the title refer to the Uber Lyft conversation, or are we fine going with the PlayStation button?
I feel like the button is the better title.
The buttons have lots of very good titles.
That's what, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, usually we go with discussion, but I don't know.
So X gives it to Sony?
I don't know if that's that was just honorable mention. X marks cross is good.
X marks the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is good. I like that. One. Good job, Protitude. Let's go with that.
Nice one.
Sword.
Or if you're Sony,
give it to Sony.
If you're Sony, you read that title, cross marks the cross.
That's true. You do. They see that as, unless you put it in a sentence, then it's X to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's their X to bear, Scott.
I read it as 10 marks the cross.
It's a symbology problem that we're all having, and Sony's
semiotics. Yeah.
You take that back.
And you were sneak peeking at Good Day Internet titles, which you can submit with the bang G command, the !G in Twitch chat or Discord. Sarah, was there one that caught your interest?
Oh, Tom, I'm glad you asked. I liked Solid Gold Nostalgia.
Uh-huh.
Oh, good.
A lot of gold stuff. All the gold stuff is good. But I feel like that's something that we can all say, okay, we've got that.
Like,
I want to drape myself in gold things for the rest of my life. Not everybody wants to do that, but we all agree that Solid Gold was a great show.
Golden's in the eye of the beholder.
After, we'll have no idea what we're referring to. Because that show didn't even run in reruns.
She's got a mean golden eye game. No, honestly, there's not a lot of rhymes to fit the rhyme scheme.
I mean, Roger, to answer your question, I doubt they have reruns of that, because what are you rerunning?
No, they definitely don't. Because I've looked into it.
It's like a weird thing to rerun. There's no.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So if you were born in the 80s, you probably don't have too much of a memory of that show.
No.
If any.
Solid Gold and the Solid Gold Dancers. I mean.
And the puppet. Who was the
puppet?
That
was. I hated that ventriloquist dummy. Oh my god.
You know, we've talked about this on GDI before, but it's like that was part of the show that, because I was like 3 years old or something. I loved Solid Gold, but it's like that was the part of the show where I was like, adult humor, I don't understand, because it was like she was making jokes, but little kids didn't get it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's adult jokes from a puppet is
about celebrities, about adult celebrities that you probably.
What about Avenue Q? The whole musical is.
Well,
I haven't seen that.
And it's older. It's a newer. I shouldn't say older, but the thing, they always had what's her name on there, plastic surgery comedian. What's her name?
Joan
Rivers.
Oh no,
Joan Rivers.
Warwick. Joan Rivers is on there all the time.
Warwick.
Well, she was one of the hosts.
You know, the plastic surgery comedian.
But she's not a comedian.
What are you talking about, Tom? She used to flog psychic friends.
Well, that's way after. Way after.
Humor without trying, maybe, I guess.
So we're going with solid gold nostalgia, it sounds like.
Yes.
All right.
I
Good
thi- I
job,
think that
Kepper
sounds good.
67.
Do you guys remember the theme song? Solid gold.
Oh yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Oh yeah.
Tom is trying to look for it right now. I can see his.
Yeah.
Now, I want to disclose at this point that Kepper 67 did give us 110 bits today, but that had no effect on us choosing the title that was submitted by Kepper 67.
Transparency.
Yeah.
Always
It's like
transparency.
Cloudflare. We want to disclose these things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, here,
We-
I got it. Let's see if this plays.
Well, wait a minute.
Oh.
Are you going to play something that's going to get us kicked off Twitch?
I don't know. It's the solid gold
just
theme with Jan
Yeah,
Roberts.
I-
Solid gold.
Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're sure that it's not going to get us black. I mean, we won't get kicked off. We'll just get
They'll
muted.
probably just get you muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
All right, I won't play it.
All right.
I'll let Tom
I
make
mean-
that call.
I feel like I know the song well enough to sing it badly.
Give us a rendition. Go.
There actually isn't much. There aren't many lyrics. It's like solid gold.
With the solid
We'll
gold
play it in
dancers.
Discord afterwards. in case
Solid
you really
gold.
want it.
Wow.
That-
You nailed it.
Yeah.
It's like
thank
I'm
you.
there, really. It's hard for me to
That's
distinguish
the-
between reality and solid gold now.
So I think the last time solid gold came up on GDI was when we were talking about Kenny Rogers because he was a solid gold staple. And weirdly, again, somewhat pre-MTV, you know how MTV elevated certain artists who just like maybe wouldn't have been super popular, but they had music videos, so they got, rerun over and over.
Mhm.
Solid Gold had a few of those artists as well, like Crystal Gale,
Mm.
Oh yeah.
the lady with her hair to the floor.
Mhm.
I remember being like, oh, she's a big deal. And my parents were like, she's not a big deal. I mean, like, she's, in certain circles, whatever, but like, she just has really long hair and she's on solid gold all the time.
What? Crystal Gale was a big deal. Why would they say that?
I think she was a big deal because she was on solid gold all the time.
No. Like she was huge in the country.
The
Like
Brown
she's
Eyes
still
Blue
considered a
song,
legend.
yes.
Yeah.
But I don't mean to say that Crystal Gale wasn't a big deal. I
No,
think
and
that
I'm not trying to
was
say that she was like the
over-elevated.
biggest, but like I don't know why your parents would be like, "Oh, no, it's only the hair." Like
No. What I think what they meant was her booker is getting her on solid gold all the time.
Ah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
more than another country music-ish star.
Well, it's interesting.
But
Solid,
as a kid, I was like, oh, she's a big deal because she's on like my very favorite show.
solid
Right.
gold was the only place I ever saw acts like not Eddie Money, Eddie Rabbit. Was it Eddie Rabbit?
Eddie Rabbit.
Eddie
Oh,
Rabbit.
Wow.
Juice Newton. Like because unless you're watching a TV special, they're just voices on the radio, right? You
Right.
didn't really see them, and I wasn't going out at the age of 5 buying, celebrity gossip rags. So that was the only time you got to see him on TV was on Solid Gold. Actually, what's his name from?
But it was like it was a
Bee Gees.
rotating cast of stars where you were like, oh, are these the biggest stars ever?
I
When you're
think
a
it's
little kid,
hilarious
you
that
don't really
you
know.
guys only remember the country acts. Like I remember Ray Parker Jr. and the Commodores, and that's
Oh,
what I
sure.
think of.
Yeah.
The
I
Jacksons-
barely
the
remember
Jacksons
Crystal
had a-
Gale ever being on Solid
Oh, I
Gold.
remember
She-
because she
she
had the
was-
long hair and
because she
she'd
had the
always sit
hair.
No,
on the
I
stool.
know you guys do. I'm just saying, like that is not what I think about when I think of Solid Gold. It's interesting how the perceptions change.
I think
Totally.
I think it's because those acts were maybe, as Sarah is alluding to, on such high rotation that in our young impressionable minds, those are the things that stuck.
But why wouldn't that? Why that would apply to me too, and it
Well,
didn't.
yeah, but
I-
you were older than us.
Oh, I see. It's ageism. Rears its ugly head
There's
again.
a little ageism going. It was also like imagine being like a 3 to 4 year old and being like, that woman has hair down to her feet.
Mhm.
Wow, that's the most interesting thing about her.
Yeah.
My
I
parents
think-
Still
being
like
like,
that,
well, that's
but-
why she
but-
keeps getting on the show.
I
Look
think
for-
maybe it's because living in rural Illinois, Crystal Gale was like, yeah, I hear her all the time, like not special. But Ray Parker Jr. is like, oh, I never hear this music. This is cool.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
only
yeah.
hear
Well,
this when I go to
that's a good
Ghostbusters.
point. Good point.
Yeah, it's true. Her hair's still that long, by the way. I looked her up recently, and she is still rocking in that hair.
Really?
Yeah,
Crystal.
she's in her
You've
70s.
eaten a lot of biotin.
I don't know
70s.
what's going on.
Well, she would be 70 at this point.
Yeah, she's got to be by now, right?
Yeah.
My Solid Gold claim to fame, although it's too late because I think Solid Gold went off the air in what, 88?
something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Go on that
but
long?
Solid Gold always based its charts off the Radio and Records trade magazine. And in 1989, my radio station that I was program director of started reporting to Radio and Records. So I was directly influencing those charts, but just a year too late to be affecting Solid Gold, sadly.
That's
to
too
be
bad.
programming Solid Gold.
It's too bad, man.
But I was really excited when we started reporting to Radio and Records because I'm like, oh, that's the Solid Gold. That's the place that fed Solid Gold. Also, Radio and Records was paid more attention to by the record distributors than Billboard for some reason, at least in where I was.
I seem to recall a Solid Gold episode where Janet Jackson made her like debut as I wasn't in the Jackson 5, but I'm another Jackson.
Right.
And she had a song, whatever it was. And this is like before Control or anything.
Oh, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, Michael Jackson's little sister, Janet Jackson, is on Solid Gold. Like it is in my brain as like a moment where I was like, oh, this is a really big deal.
Yeah, I remember that too. It seemed like it was like a bigger deal than it felt like that show ever should have been. Like it just
because there was no MTV, there was no alternative at that point.
I guess so. I mean, it was kind of a.
You could watch America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem, which had no Solid Gold dancers. Thank you very much.
No,
or American Bandstand. That was it.
Or Soul Train.
And that's kind of what that was. Tom makes a good point. That's kind of what that was for our generation. It was, hey, American Bandstand or Soul Train. These are things you don't know anything about, but here's Solid Gold, which is basically that for the 80s. Like that.
Well, American Bandstand was pretty mainstream.
Yeah, it still was around, I guess.
It lasted until the early 90s, didn't it?
Yeah. So American Bandstand we watched it more often than Solid Gold because I think it was just on at a more convenient time. Also, my mom loved it when she was a kid. So
it was part of the.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Actually,
American Bandstand.
I know what it is.
Used to be on Saturday mornings for some reason, right after all the cartoons.
Yeah, it was right after the cartoons ended. I think that's why we ended up watching it.
Yeah, after Super Friends, you would watch that.
The challenge.
Yeah, I think that's usually the time my parents are like, "Get out of the house, go run around."
It's good too.
I never saw it. Yeah, also good.
Also good. You out there and run
also
around.
a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Was that when Disney owned ABC? No, they used to do the Wonderful World of Disney on ABC. Was it ABC? They had really close.
It was just a partnership. There were nobody owned anybody then. That was just like I don't know. It's like when there were Mario games on the CDI. It's like, well,
there was the one Zelda game that was not a Zelda game.
Oh yeah, remember that? That was weird.
It's like,
I love that kind of stuff.
It was even well made. That was, I think, the most insulting part.
It was really bad.
So Solid Gold would sometimes do lip syncing, which American Bandstand definitely did. But
Solid
sometimes,
Gold was very much
sometimes apparently, they would record instrumental tracks and play those, but the singer would actually be singing live.
Yes, that I remember.
What?
Which
so that
never
they didn't have
on,
to pay for the band?
No, it was just let's say Crystal Gale's on, right? So they want to make sure they get the backing track right, so they record that because they're like, well, the band isn't going to be on stage anyway, and then they'd play that in her ear, so she would, and then she'd sing live. Not live; it's all taped.
It was always Crystal by herself, like under a spotlight.
Yep, she was on there.
The hair.
Because that's how you did
crossover though.
If it's not obvious, I was very, very into Crystal.
Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. I remember them doing "Up Where We Belong."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude, that is old school.
That is Solid Gold.
That is maybe the most Solid Gold song ever.
Yeah.
You know what Solid Gold to me? Lionel Richie singing "Hello." That
definitely.
Ooh,
Solid Gold was kind of the
another
adult
spotlight one,
right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
It had to be as broad based as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of "Hello" by Lionel Richie, do you remember the video for that song?
Yes. No. It's like the blind woman that's sculpting his head.
He was in love with a woman, and the whole storyline was that she was blind.
What, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember this at all.
It's like, okay, well, you can be in love with whoever, but it was just, I remember being like, this is just an interesting anecdote that he doesn't ever sing about, but that's part of the video.
Well, I think the whole thing was it's this unrequited love. Like, she's there, but he can't connect with her other than like through sculpture. Like,
Other than singing from way, saying
there are
hello.
a lot of things. Hellos at me. You're looking for. It's like there's just a lot of things where you're like, that is an interesting detail to
suddenly
bake
that
into
song-
this.
That song almost becomes insulting, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Hello.
Hello.
Is it me? You're looking
To me, you're
for?
looking
You're
for.
looking for- oh, you can't see. Shit.
Lionel, I'm blind, not deaf.
Going to HE double hockey sticks, all of us.
Oh, that's funny.
Just-
And yes, Strike It Rich. Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue was about contacts.
Yeah,
Because that's how you do it.
they were getting fancy then.
Yep.
You just Crystal tried about like, don't it make my brown eyes blue? Like, well, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
does.
That's what it did.
Don't it make my brown eyes cat eyes is the Dragon Con version of that song.
The most alternative they ever got. I remember them playing that car here in my car.
yes.
That thing. I remember-
In cars.
And
Well,
cars.
that was after MTV launched, and they were trying to like, oh my God, everyone's like, our demographics leaving this show. What do we do? And
Not
they,
have.
They also had Devo, I think, once.
They probably had Devo on. Yeah.
I think that's a famous. That rings a bell. I think that was a famous moment
or
in-
something. Probably.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
that
Devo
they
history.
did something weird on Solid Gold.
Yeah, Peekaboo. They did Peekaboo live on Solid Gold in 1982.
I don't know that song. I know Susie and the Banshees Peekaboo.
Yeah, it's a different.
That's a different song.
I used to love them.
Oh,
They were
great,
so
great
cool.
band.
Yeah. They were
A friend of mine, when you're in high school and you're trying to stand out from the crowd, she legally changed her middle name to Susie, spelled like Susie and the Banshees.
Oh my gosh!
Aw.
Legally did it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
In high
That's
school?
something you'll regret later.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And told in biology class was like, just want to let everybody know this is now how you spell my middle name, which you will never ever write out ever.
Because it's
And
my
no one
middle name.
cares. Yeah. It was,
I-
everyone was sort of like, okay, all right. Well,
That reminds me,
Respect,
the
respect.
music director at the programming that the radio station I was talking about earlier insisted it was sushi, not Susie.
Oh, Sushi and the Banshees? Really?
Yeah,
I mean, they
Susie.
said their name is Susie and the Banshees.
They said it was Suji. I
Oh.
remember this being a thing.
Were the members of
gosh.
the band at the
And I
time
was like,
were a
really?
little sloshed?
Sure.
Suji.
Yeah, they were
That's my name.
They were just out for a night of sake.
Yeah.
Sake to me.
Saki.
Ah. dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the Peekaboo from Devo kind of went like it was like dun 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 Peekaboo. No, it's different.
Oh, you know what? You're right. And it was
But why was the performance
Because it was
controversial?
Devo showing up and doing this weird, like it's
Well-
weird. One of their weird songs. "Whip It" is the song you would expect.
I
right?
remember this,
Yeah.
and they didn't do Whip It for reasons, because at the time, parent groups were all worried that Whip It meant something that it didn't mean, or maybe it did mean, but
Or it was violence. Yeah.
Correct that whip.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen,
I mean,
folks.
Devo was weird. Let's be
they were,
honest.
they were weird.
They're amazing, weird, good.
That
Weird.
guy makes
Yeah, they're
movies
good
now.
weird.
Doesn't he make movies now? I think that's what that guy does now.
We need to get going because we're going to record the monthly bonus show. So if you're at the co-executive producer level or up, you should have that by the end of the day. The bonus show is where we look at the lineups from DTNS from 10 years ago, getting ahead of myself, 5 years ago, and talk about what those stories mean now, 5 years later, and how interesting it is. So we'll be talking about the iPhone 6 and a bunch of other stuff. So look for that at patreon.com/DTNS. And everyone, please have a good day.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Good day.